And so I was in a bar one night and talking to this guy, and he said, well, you should come talk to my roommate. He's a minister. And so I did, and his name was Howard Williams, the minister. He was the minister of Oceanside MCC. He used to be assistant pastor here at MCC in San Diego before that. And so I got to talking to him, and he said, well, you need to come to church with me. You know, there's a church, you know, I have a church, it's real small. Come and see what you want to do. So I said, okay, because I missed being with the church. I mean, that had been my life, was working with the church. So so I went, and they were all making placards and things, and it turned out that they were getting ready to go to this Pride March, and I had no idea, you know, what was going on. So he said, well, come with me next week. There's a meeting, and I'll take you to the meeting. So he took me to the meeting. We went to the B Street, what was the B Street Center, and I remember coming up, and there was this huge group of people on the lawn out in front of the center, and there was some guy up on the front porch, and I'd never seen this many gay people together. It was really overwhelming, and they were talking about something about the Socialist Workers' Party participating in this march sort of thing. I didn't quite understand what was going on, and I didn't know who the people were that were involved or anything, because, you know, this was all very new. It turns out that now, going back, I realized that it was Nicole on the porch was the speaker speaking to the crowd, and there were probably about 30 or 40 people in the crowd, which looked like hundreds to me. But through meeting Howard, I went to the first parade, where I hid behind a tree. Terrified that I was going to, one of those cameras taking pictures was going to get me, and my mother was going to see it. So the first year I hid, but I saw all these people, and there were so many people from so many different things. So the next year I participated. No, it's a very gray area for me as to what the first year and participating and stuff, because after the first year that I participated, I was a part of the organization, and, you know, it just took off sort of thing. Things were really dysfunctional in those first years in some ways, because there was no main group in charge. It was sort of an ad hoc committee. Now, I know that the year before the first official march, there was the love-in at the park.
Right.
I didn't go to that, I don't think. But then I could have gone to it and not realized it, and it's all been sort of run together. That's what happens when you get old. The early years start to run together, and they all sound like they all happened every year. But I know that officially for Pride, all the years we've always said that 75 was the first event, and that's the poster that I have. It's got 1975, and that's the first time that they put something out. But I also have photos of the love-in from 74. So by the time we who were in charge of Pride found out that some people objected to 75 being the first event, we were pretty well established that, you know, that fives and nines were our anniversary years, that we were 5 years off of Stonewall, that we would hit the same years. So it was really hard just in the middle of it, because it was like the 10th anniversary when somebody brought it up and said, well, you know, they really started the year earlier. So I didn't understand what the Socialist Workers' Party was at the time. You know, I knew they were communist or something like that, you know, party sort of thing, but it didn't mean too much because they were a minority, we were a minority, and you took who you could get because there weren't a lot of people to offer help back in those days. So people were people and bodies were bodies, and you worked together for a common cause. I'm not so sure their common cause and our common cause was the same, but I'm 30 years later looking back, and I know that they worked very hard. They caused some problems sometimes. You mentioned the first time, I don't remember the years, I'm sorry, but the first one was about their signs. When they showed up to the parade, they showed up with huge big signs that said in big letters Socialist Workers Party, and in tiny little letters it said, Gay Pride. And we said, this isn't about Socialist Workers Party, this is about Gay Pride. So we made the committee, because it was a committee at that time, passed a rule that the signs had to be about Gay Pride. And if you wanted to put your organization, it could be in tiny little letters, but that the main focus had to be on Gay Pride. So that was that one. Then because of that, there was a lot of talk that they were trying to take over the parade, and that can't remember if people thought they were going to do something. And so there was this big row in the committee. And the committee was actually working on what to do about it. And some people in the community, and I don't remember where it came from, but all of a sudden posters showed up that said the parade was being canceled. They'd never talked to the committee putting on the event. They just showed up. And when the committee went to the bars to try to tell them, because all of our communication with the community was mostly done in bars in those days. There was only the bars in the church. The bars wouldn't let us come in. They thought that we were being run by the socialists, and they didn't want anything to do with us, and they wouldn't let us come in. They didn't want to hear that we were working it out and that there really was going to be a parade. So we picketed the bars.
How picketed how?
Huh?
What do you mean by picketed?
I mean, I carried a picket sign that said there will be a parade. We divvied up all the bars in town, and we had times that we went out at night when they were the busiest and stood in front of the bars and picketed them and handed out flyers to people telling them that the parade was on. I think we didn't have a very big turnout for the event that year, because it was hard to get word out, and people were still distrusting and everything. But there was an event, but it was a small event. I think probably Anita Bryant was probably the catalyst that really got me involved in Pride. I mean, I was kind of doing stuff because of the church's involvement, and that kind of stuff and helping. But I saw that this was a place for me and a niche that I could fit into. I agree. I think the community tends to become complacent until there's a threat, and when there's a threat, you can put aside the differences. Back in the 70s, there was the men and the women and the separatist women and all that, and they all found that they still didn't necessarily like each other because of their viewpoints, but that they knew they had to work together. So, and I think it also did across it wasn't just a local issue. So it gave some connection all of a sudden that we started to see that we were part of a bigger thing. There'd always been political people like Gloria and with Now and those kinds of things, but I don't think the community really saw that it was connected, and that did. So I'd have to say, yeah, I agree. They were the worst thing that could have happened to us, but I think as anything, they brought out the best in us, and if it had been for them, who knows where we'd be now. And if you ever want to know on 6 button, I still have about 300 of them in
Oh,
my.
really?
Oh yeah.
Oh,